Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the All Star Wrestling Review Series for the um, August 30th edition of 1981. And we continue to foray through 1981. We're going to have about 135, 140 of these by the time we're done. Obviously, or August 29th, I believe it is, that this edition particularly is. And again, we move into the end of August. We've got nearly 1900. We're going to be crossing into 1900, maybe even today or definitely by the end of the weekend. 1900 audio is available for your listening pleasure in a variety of wrestling products, both modern day and old school, back when wrestling was actually decent. Anyway, we are continuing our foray through the All Star Wrestling series. This is as mentioned, the August 29th edition of that program, and we get to go into All Star Wrestling, including Mr. Fuji and Mr. Saito versus Dominic Tanucci and Muhammad Saeed match from 8/15/81 Championship Wrestling, including also a re-airing of Tony Atlas and Mike Masters from 11/24/79 Championship Wrestling as well. Don Morocco and Tom Lynch is the first match up here. Obviously, Don Morocco, your Intercontinental Champion. Morocco has been Intercontinental Champion for a few months now and continues to be. Managed pretty well by the Grand Wizard. Wizard is happy. The Intercontinental Championship is always looking spiffy, although not as shiny as the later kid-friendly belts. Morocco punch kick, clotheslines, very basic maneuvers, trying to get as much of an advantage over his adversary as possible without doing the least amount of work, sending his man into the buckle and then cranking down on a inverted chin lock, front face lock on him. More clotheslines and basic maneuvers. Morocco pulling the man up for a suplex, followed by the top rope splash that we eventually see. Morocco certainly also going back to the chin lock, trying to draw extra minutes out of the match before going to the top rope and getting the victory as one to see. Obviously, Tom Lynch, not exactly a guy that can be taken terribly seriously because he is defeated so soundly by Morocco by any stretch of the imagination. We then get a interview where Rick McGraw basically says he cannot come back to wrestling or doesn't think he's going to be able to. Eventually, we send him off, and Pat Patterson is upset by this reality, and the punishment to Killer Khan is not to Patterson's liking in terms of he believes that Khan should be handled in a bit of a meaner way or whatever have you there. Then we move to Pedro Morales against Ron Shaw. Pedro Morales and Ron Shaw have done battle before. They return here and they are pretty simplistically put. Then we kind of see Shaw managing to get a couple of punch kick maneuvers along the way. Shaw, a guy who has the size, just never quite hit beyond the enhancement talent nature of things. Sent to the outside, tossed over the outside, over the top rope by Pedro Morales. Not illegal in the WWF, but illegal in the NWA at the time. Morales manages punch kick, very basic stuff, sends him into the top turnbuckle, and a good sell job by Pedro for sure, or by Shaw for sure. Sends the man in and hits him in the midsection, and a leaping bump, for lack of a better term, there. The Grand Wizard of Wrestling basically says that Greg Valentine's back to cause as much trouble as possible, promises that Valentine will win the world champion off of Robert Backlund. Very few men call him Robert, but Greg Valentine basically says he's given up the U.S. title and other regional championships for the world championship here in the WWF. Valentine at the time is a guy that many people would consider to be one of the most challenging individuals for a variety of reasons. Then we kind of go forward into another match here on the program. That happens to be a match with Robert Soto versus Johnny Ross. Soto and Ross, basic match, and then we kind of go into rerunville of the programming, which I don't know that that's necessarily good. I don't know that you could keep fans today if you rerun a bunch of stuff, although I don't even know. The video packages and all of that, most of that is reruns, and I guess holds people's attention pretty well. never been one for reruns in wrestling. Soto does manage to go to a top press lock with Roz, and basic maneuvers there, arm bars and the like. Roz gets the takedowns. Roz always comes out ahead, picks the leg and kind of bends the leg up of the man, and pretty basic stuff there. Uh, Tossed or attempted to toss to the outside, but not exactly getting where he needs to be. And ultimately, Johnny Roz does go to the second rope on the inside and hit or miss a modified splash, and eventually Soto gets the inside cradle and gets a victory there. We then go back to the old school days of things there. Dominic DeNucci and his tag partner facing off against Fuji and Saito. Again, Championship Wrestling. Fuji and Saito managed again by Lou Albano, which is, I mean, it makes sense for the time period, but at the same time, not exactly a strong deal for them. In terms of Fuji and Saito, kind of are a team that needs someone to do the talking for them, so that's good, but on a wrestling nature, maybe Lou Albano isn't the best person to do their talking for them. Several times, and Dominic DeNucci manages to be the guy in the middle of the ring getting cut off. The majority of the match actually does belong to DeNucci. DeNucci, having been a multi-time tag team champion in the 70s and early 80s, managing to get ahead there. The partner of DeNucci, not exactly as helpful as you'd want him to be. Tossed to the outside and brawling on the outside with the Japanese champion, or future champions, in control. And Fuji gets a kind of bonsai / running clothesline, getting him a victory there. Tony Atlas coming back because he's, I guess, coming back to the territory here in the end of, or the summer / fall of 81. As we move into September, I guess you could almost say fall. Within a couple of weeks, it will be fall. Mike Masters and Tony Atlas from 1979, a couple of years before, just filling out the program. Power moves by Atlas. Also, he hits the military press slam, and Atlas eventually getting the victory in this review match, which we've already covered on a previous program. We will be back with more right after this.